Barely. Hi, I'm Bill Young, New Foundations Ministries Inc. Um, you can find us on Facebook, New Foundations Ministries, and what I'm going to discuss or talk about. I'd love to hear your input, love to hear what you have to say about it. Maybe you have comments or remarks. Maybe you want to tell me off or say something good. It doesn't matter. I'd love to hear from you anyways. Um, I'd like to talk a little bit about people's perspective, how we see things. It's really tough. There's a saying that no two people are raised by the same parents. That would mean if you have two twins, they're not raised by the same parents. If you have brothers, sisters of the same family, they have the same parents, but their perception of their parents is even different. And this is the way it is with us and God. Everyone perceives God a little differently. We perceive God through our filters or our way of seeing things. And so God constantly looks a little different through everyone's eyes. Although he is God, he's the same, he is who he is, but we perceive him a little differently. One of the things that I like to look at is there's a joke that I heard many years ago. And in this joke, it was told by a pastor that when I first was saved, he told this joke. It was after church, and there were a group of us standing around out in the parking lot. And he told this joke, and there was quite a few different reactions to the joke. And I think each one of those reactions tells quite a story. Each person's reaction tells quite a story of how their relationship with God or their perception of God was. Because you could tell that each person had a different reaction. So this is the joke. Jesus, Elijah, Moses are standing in a desert on the side of a hill, and they decide to have a contest. In this contest, they're going to see who can perform the greatest miracle. So Elijah comes up and he raises his hands, and the rain comes and it falls and it fills the whole valley full of water. And they're all like, "Man, that's really good. That's really good." Well, then Moses raises his staff and he stands by the water, and the water splits, like the parting of the Red Sea. And they're like, "Yeah, that's really good. That's really good." And then they turn to Jesus and said, "It's your turn." And Jesus walks out on the water and sinks right to the bottom. Just goes right to the bottom. And he comes out and he's all wet and he's just standing there and he goes like this, And Moses looks at him and he ponders for a moment. And then he goes, "Hey, Jesus, the last time you tried that, did you have those holes in your feet?" Well, when the pastor told that story, I laughed. Obviously, he thought it was funny, and other people laughed kind of hard, and other people were a little reserved about their laughter. And this one woman was very upset. She felt like it was a blasphemy that he had spoken evil of God, and that she's literally waiting for God to reach down and slap us silly for making such a statement or even laughing about it. So her perception of God was obviously different, than some of the others that were in the group. Some people felt very free to laugh about it, and other people felt, in there. Me and myself, I didn't see anything wrong with it, but it might have been more towards ignorant. I hadn't had enough hellfire and brimstone preached into me at that point, I don't know. But as time progressed, I did realize that you see a lot of movies with Jesus and older movies and stuff, and he's very it's very serious, and a lot of things that people show with Jesus, it's always serious, and we kind of have a hard time with seeing Jesus as little, having a sense of humor, or God having a sense of humor. Although there's some animals that he created that are pretty funny looking, but whenever you see this, you see that there's such a difference in people's perspectives. In fact, I told my friend this, and he's our cameraman, by the way, but he was, when I told him about it, he thought it was a little out of color. He thought it was a little bit rude. But he also laughed. He said, and I said, "Well, why did you laugh?" He said, "Because it was really funny." So he got the joke, but he felt like it made the joke make him a little uncomfortable too. Told another pastor friend of mine, he laughed really hard, and I go, "Why did you laugh?" He said, "Because it was really funny." But here's what I want to say is when you look at the joke for a moment, I realized the other day I was asleep, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, really early in the morning. I think it was around 3 o'clock, and I woke up, and the first thing I thought about was this joke, and I hadn't thought about this joke in years. And I was thinking about this joke, and then suddenly, while I was thinking about this joke, I had this revelation that this joke was almost like a parable. And I don't think anybody, the writer of the joke, ever intended it to be. If you know where it came from, let me know. If you've heard where it, if you've got like the original recording of the joke or something like that, I'd love to hear it. But I don't think that anyone purposely meant for it to be like it is. I think it was meant to be a joke. But there was almost a parable in this joke. And here's what I realized about the joke was my perspective of God has obviously changed. And not that I didn't understand these things about Jesus, because I've understood it about years, I've preached about it, but somehow I didn't see the connection to the joke. I didn't see the connection, how it would work. I would ask you, who won the competition? The one that brought the rain or the one that split the sea? Most people don't see Jesus as winning the competition because he wasn't able to walk on the water. But I have a different perspective now. I see that Jesus won the competition. See, it's not only funny because of him falling, but what's funny about it is that we don't see. I think that God kind of laughs at the joke because for the most part, a lot of us don't get it. Like we don't understand all the parables that have been spoken. When you look at this, you see that Moses points to Jesus' feet. And the feet is the sign of the cross, the marks, the wounds. It's a sign of the cross. In other words, here was the other two men, Moses and Elijah, are men who are given the power to create miracles and do miracles from the power of God. It's not from themselves, from the power of God. But Jesus, who is God, who is the creator of all things, has humbled himself and became flesh and went to the cross and died for our sins. And because of his shed blood, we now share in the glory of God. We receive salvation because of him humbling himself. So what really happens is in this joke, when Moses points to his feet, what's being pointed to is the greater miracle. See what I'm saying? Wow, what a concept. Jesus at the cross was the greater miracle. He didn't have to perform it again. He didn't have to do it again. He just had to make it to where you could see it. The reference when he pointed. So, it may be a little leap for some of you. Some of you may have a little bit of a hard time with it, but it really gave me a new perspective of the joke. And I don't see it as a blasphemy or as anything evil. I just see it as a wonderful story that you can use to point out the fact that the greatest miracle of all, isn't the signs and wonders where we cast out demons. It isn't the things where the feeding of the thousands or the raising of the dead even. None of those things. It's Jesus at the cross. That's the greatest miracle of all. That's why he's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. If any remarks you have, anything you'd like to say, if you have another joke or you have something you want to share with us, please get connected with us on Facebook at New Foundations Ministries. And I really appreciate you. Thank you.